Hello guys, this is RQ A-Level Computer Science. So today we're going to be going through 2.2.2 computational methods. So for the subtopics in this topic, I have assessed the mark schemes from the 2017 OCR papers till now and gathered the looked at different definitions and figured out exactly what you need to know for what the exam would ask you. So the information I'm going to be saying is relevant to your exam. So if you write this down in the exam, you are guaranteed full marks because there is the textbook and there is the PMT notes and other notes online, which if you had written that definition down from those notes into your exam, you would not get full marks. Hence why the best idea is to go through different exam mark schemes and figure out the definitions from there and using them to guide you through more exam practice and other questions, just for using them to make your own notes pretty much. So I have gathered the definitions for several parts for this topic, and we are going to be first starting with visualization. So visualization is, so in general, just before I start with the definition, it allows us to create a mental image of what a program will do. This is typically done using flow diagrams to illustrate the sort of logic of an algorithm before converting it into pseudocode. So what the OCR definition of visualization is that it benefits humans rather than computers. So it benefits humans rather than computers. That's what the mark scheme says. So if you go and see any definition of visualization, you would see that it would say it benefits humans rather than computers. And this is mainly done via presenting in a simpler way to understand. Presenting information in a similar way to understand. So, two things: benefits humans rather than computers. This is mainly done via presenting information in a sort of simpler way, so it is easier to understand and more simpler to understand. And the third point, if it's a 3-mark question, then you would be saying that visualization can explain complex problems really well. And that is pretty much the core visualization and exactly what you would need to know for your exam. Now going down to the next bit, which is performance modeling. Now, performance modeling, as a generic overview of what it is it sort of allows you to test a system before it is pretty much used. So, for example, let's say with the game Fortnite or any other games which are released, like Call of Duty, GTA, or the developers would pretty much start by carrying out different tests before they release the software or release the game. So this could be typically done via beta testing. So if you remember when the initial startup of Fortnite started, they had a beta game mode which was released to Xbox players. So they basically were able to play the first-hand beginning development of Fortnite, and this sort of allows your company to understand what the requirements of users or how does the game perform when multiple different gamers are joining. How does this stress balance, how does performance balance when multiple gamers are joining? Is the game able to handle or computer processes properly? Are graphics rendering happening at the correct rate? So all these balances are carried out when doing performance modeling. And the definition which OCR wants you to know from the mark schemes I have viewed is that it allows you to simulate / test a system before it is used. So that would get you 1 mark if you have written that down on your paper. Now they would probably, in the exam, they would most likely, looking at specification, they would definitely ask you, give you some examples of performance modeling. So for that sort of question, if you had that, what you would say is that we could test the system through stress testing. So we can test the system via stress testing. So this would mean we would have to use a large number of like online presence. So this would be, so if the question is in context towards games or development of websites, then you would have to definitely do some kind of stress testing with your customer base, pretty much. And there is one, like that's pretty much the core example, you could say. But there could be like other sort of questions where you have to tailor your response, which, going back to my previous example, was that you could perhaps test via a beta testing phase. This could be, for example, with a large number of, for example, like let's just say customer orders, or something which we can definitely test the beginning development of the app or game, whatever you're trying to develop. And that's performance modeling on its own. It has come across about 3 times in past papers before. There is also like one other sort of area which they could ask you on, which I have assessed from past papers, is that if it's a sort of like a short 1-mark question, then this definition would be suffice in terms of getting you that mark. However, if it's more than if it's more than 3 marks, or extends, they want to ask you for a bit more, then this definition would not be enough, because the sociology would have to kind of extend on this. So you would say it simulates test the system before it is used. That is correct, but sometimes the mark scheme also looks for the word model, and they would probably add in before it's used, and then you want to like specify in what sort of criteria is it used. So you'd say before it's used under load. So that becomes your appropriate full definition for performance modeling, which is simulating / testing or modeling the system before it is used under load. Typically, you would model like the behavior, for example. This could be done via different tests. So the core of it is that you would do performance modeling if it is really expensive and sort of unsafe to release the system immediately. So if, for example, you create a system, for example, you create a website. Now this website, you could easily deploy this onto the web. However, for example, you would see that when other users interact with the website, it causes like different bugs, and pretty much it causes the website to crash. And again, this would be expensive for you because look, you've already deployed it. You spend a sum of money trying to deploy the website, and it also becomes a bit unsafe in terms of users being perhaps directed to different websites, or links not working. So in that sort of field, it becomes pretty like expensive heavy for us. Hence the usage of performance modeling. Now, you have stress testing and beta testing. Now you'd have to also select the appropriate test data. So if the mark scheme does ask you, maybe tailor a response towards how will you conduct performance modeling, then make sure that you declare these sort of points, which would be first, test that you would select test data that can be large to small values. So just depending on whatever you want to test for, and this is exactly what the mark scheme says. So Afterwards, you would probably want to you would talk about the examples afterwards. Just make sure to embed that into your response. But specifically, if it asks you how, make sure to say you would select test data that can be large to small values, and this can then be used to model how well the system would hold up with increasing usage. So, I mean, the mark scheme does get a bit confusing here, but if you sort of picture it down, you can model how well the system holds up with increasing use.